Meanwhile, guys, President Biden held a news conference yesterday alongside the president of Kenya, where he barked at reporters for asking a second question. Watch.
Two questions, if I may, on...
No, one.
And on Israel. Does the United States...
One question. I'll answer your question. You guys never keep the deal, but that's okay.
Then proceeded to fumble through questions until his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, came to the rescue and abruptly ended the event.
2 years ago, our nation's first black vice president, President Kamala Harris. Okay, next. Do I ask the next question as well? By the way, you implied that we weren't doing anything anywhere else. Well, we're kind of occupied around the world, but we're also engaged in Congo, in the neighborhood.
Mr. President, could you tell me what the African Union is doing, as well as Kenya is doing, when it comes to the humanitarian crisis in the Congo? Thank you.
What was my question? Whoa!
This concludes the press conference. Thanks, everybody.
Biden's struggles yesterday pouring gas on calls for him to back out of the 2024 race. 538 founder Nate Silver putting it bluntly, quote, "If Biden is still struggling in August, he needs to consider stepping aside. It shouldn't be taboo to talk about." Kaylee, the writing's on the wall, and that was clearly an excellent point.
Yeah, it is an excellent point. Look, I mean, press wranglers push press out of the room. You had that during the Trump era. But to have the press secretary having to shout, like, the event's over, she's clearly quite nervous, in my opinion, of what her boss could say next. They keep these events tightly controlled because I don't think he can handle much longer. To Nate Silver's point, it's very interesting. I don't see how it's tenable for Biden to succeed if he has a disastrous first debate. But you have to ask yourself, what is the mechanism with which he will be removed? At the convention, it's very difficult. Technically, the Democratic delegates aren't bound in the same way the Republicans are, but it's still very difficult. There is a little-known provision, and this is Alex Seitwald over at NBC who put this all together. Little-known provision in the DNC's platform that you could remove a candidate under certain conditions. And Donna Brazile, who used to head up the DNC, thought about doing this with Hillary after she had that fall on 9/11. So there are these narrow ways that it can be done. Read the Alex Seitwald article, but it would be very challenging.
Leslie, at the end of the day, too, what do the voters want? What do the people want? Because I think what we're seeing is a distinction between establishment Dems, but the voices are growing louder for him to step aside and to say, I don't think he has the mental capacity at this moment to handle the office anymore.
Well, Dr. Siegel will speak to this, but I've seen doctors on television and heard them on podcasts on both sides saying that there is age decline for Biden and Trump, that there are signs of dementia for both Biden and Trump, depending on what doctor that you're hearing from. But the voters don't care. I say that if you poll them about the age, it bothers them. But these are the two guys they're going to choose between. So the people that are diehard Trump supporters or Republicans are going to go for the former president, and those that are diehard Biden supporters and Democrats are going to go for Joe Biden. And the sliver that it comes down to in that handful of half a dozen states and those undecided or independent voters within those states, that sliver, age for these two gentlemen is not top 10 for them as a voter. You know, whether it's 35 seconds of silence with Donald Trump or him stumbling over Venezuela or thinking, Obama is still president, or the things that you've seen with Joe Biden, although it makes people uncomfortable, and we see that in the polls, it's not going to flip either one of them into or out of the White House. And I agree with what Kaylee said. Joe Biden is the candidate. That's not going to change.
I will say, I just got to say, I totally disagree that Trump has the same mental acuity problems. He's sharp as a whip. You interviewed him.
I thought he was sharp as a whip. And by the way, I just want to say quickly about this, Emily. It's about cognitive reserve, right? We're thinking as we see this is the president of the United States, not someone's grandfather.
Yeah.
What about that 4 a.m. phone call? Remember Hillary Clinton, that 4 a.m. phone call? Do you know what to do if you get that emergency call that wakes you up at 4 a.m.? Do we have confidence that Joe Biden will answer that and even know that he's the president? He may say, call Kamala. I mean, the idea of the mistakes he's making really worry me because he's under tremendous pressure. But the president's always under tremendous pressure and needs to perform up to a level way, way higher than anyone's grandfather.
Yeah. Respectfully, I think there's absolutely no comparison between Biden's existing state, and Trump's not even in this conversation at the moment. And the point is this momentum gathering, Miley? Do you see that it will be a point of no return for the president?
So I just covered Biden going to New Hampshire. He spoke for less than 12 minutes in a very kind of quiet venue. He was talking to a group of veterans. He had been to New Hampshire in March as well. Also a similar type of thing. He spoke for less than 20 minutes, a very subdued crowd there as well. And then you contrast that with the president when he's able to get out and go to these campaign rallies, the big personality, the bombastic reaction, also just the riskier venues that he's willing to go to stand there in the Bronx and do what he did the other day. So there's a contrast that's going on that we're seeing play out on television, at these events, in real time, on the ground. And it's never good for this particular president to see headlines about stumbling, not just verbally before a press conference, but also physically as well. And we've seen a couple of those headlines.
Yeah, that's right. They are not going away. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.